Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70 Millimeter, finally a podcast about movies. Each week, I'm joined by famous artist Danny Haas.
The amount of pastrami I ate.
And writer-poet Proto.
I didn't know you could do that, where you have a tie, a shirt, and a suit all the same color. It looked amazing.
This episode, we're focusing on Martin Scorsese's Casino. There is a bit of cursing in this episode, so maybe keep your headphones on while listening. Enjoy!
I watched, for the first time ever, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with my kids. Wow, that movie is a time capsule.
That was your first time ever?
Yeah, it was my first time ever. Ooh, I was not a Turtles kid growing up. It just never was on my radar. So I had friends who were like into it, but it was never my thing. So sitting down and watching this, just seeing the 90s vibes just permeating out of this movie was quite a trip. There's some amazing scenes in that, and just the greatest thing is just the costumes. It's just so good. The turtles, I couldn't believe like the eyes.
I missed this line when I first read your review. Oh God, the turtle suits are amazing and really the best part of the movie. But Shredder, imagine Michael Jackson dressed in.
You can't even finish it.
Imagine Michael Jackson dressed in steak knives. I didn't even see that line before. I will be haunted forever wondering why Donatello's lips curled. I got a link to it. I can't. Just go read Proto's review. Oh my God. That movie, I will say this, that movie still feels timeless. It looks like a movie, like just set in a certain period of time that just looks cinematic. I love how it looks.
Oh, yeah.
Feature presentation this week that almost made Proto fall out of his computer gaming chair is Martin Scorsese's Casino. That's going to be our main topic in just a moment. Our private Slack has been abuzz this week with screenshots. We haven't shared our opinions. Next week is going to be the big one, Dune. Proto's been reading the most recent 65 books in the Dune series to prepare himself.
Yes. And
we've been running a little bit of a fun game on our Apple Podcast reviews. For people that review us on Apple Podcasts, add in a recommendation on a movie you'd want us to watch for the show. The cutoff for that is going to be April 9th. That's a Thursday. That's when we're going to record. So if you're listening to this on a Monday, you have until Thursday to review and get your recommendation in. And then the next week, we're going to be recording that episode. So we got a few other ones in there. We'll be picking randomly from the iTunes reviews. Copland was recently added to our iTunes reviews. When Harry Met Sally. Never seen it.
That's a rom-com, right?
I sat in Kat's Deli, where she meets Harry, or Harry meets Sally, and there's an arrow above the table that says this is where they met.
Wow.
In New York. It was amazing. Some amazing sandwiches there. The amount of pastrami I ate.
Oh,
was that a delicatessen?
I don't know. It's pastrami.
I automatically know that quote's going to be the intro audio for Danny. The amount of pastrami I ate. I've already made a mental note. I was going to say, I thought you were going to say you and your wife, Casey, who is a podcast famous host, maybe were in theater seeing When Harry Met Sally when it came out. You guys probably in sixth grade dating whenever that movie came out. I don't know.
I don't know when that came out.
Fun, Sexy Bible Time. It's Casey's podcast name.
Goodness.
The Terminator was also added to the list by former guest host Chuck Forsman, Twitch czar these days. And then a movie I never heard of, 45 Years.
The things he's doing over there on Twitch.
I mentioned 45 Years. That was by Ren Mike D. And by happenstance, the winner of this week for getting a year of Letterboxd Pro, for sharing our show and tagging us on social media, is none other than Ren Mike D. Congratulations.
Wow.
Noted Avatar hater.
There's one movie that guy hates. It's Avatar with every fiber of his being.
I've never seen anything like it.
It's unreal.
Vendetta.
If you want to potentially have a chance to win a year of Letterboxd Pro, you can do so on social media. Just share the show and tag us. Give our @ name on there, 70mm pod on Instagram and Twitter. And you get a year of Letterboxd Pro. It's our favorite social media site. It's where we catalog our movie reviews, our ratings, and make fun of each other for those ratings and reviews. Didn't you just watch Lobster for the first time? Is that what you watched?
I did, yeah. I watched Lobster. It's been in my watch list since I saw Killing of a Sacred Deer. Same director, I found out. And then Colin Farrell in it is unreal. And that story is so good. It's so the dystopian future of, what could happen to us, but choosing to become a lobster if you don't find a mate, or choosing to become an animal if you don't find a mate within like 45 days. And his choice is the lobster. I won't give it away if he gets to that finale. But the story is so wild. I can't even begin to explain what happens, but it's so good. It's such a cool movie. Shot really well. Good score. Amazing cast in it. I had a good time watching that.
The sentence you just used to describe that movie makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm choosing to become an animal if you don't find a mate.
Honestly, that's probably exactly what the summary is on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I think I watched half of that movie with my wife, and she couldn't take it, how weird it was. Yeah. So I have to I'll finish it at some point.
I didn't even bother asking Casey. But yeah, I enjoyed that movie. I'm becoming more and more impressed with Colin Farrell as I dive into more stuff he's done.
Does he have long hair in that movie? He looks great with long hair.
He looks exactly the same as he does. It's Killing the Sacred Deer. He's got the glasses, that short, floppy haircut. He's great.
Proto, did you watch Killing of Sacred Deer?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. It's a good
I
flick.
can already tell.
No, it's a good flick. I liked it.
What's your rating on Killing of Sacred Deer?
I don't remember.
That sounds like a 3-star reaction that you just gave to it. Yeah, I watched it.
I mean, let's play it safe. We'll say 3 stars.
We have we're going to get into it later, but we also have voicemails 267-409-6983. So if you want to give your opinion on a movie or just say whatever on a voicemail, preferably under 90 seconds, you can do so at that number. Feature Prezzo, Casino, Martin Scorcese, Robert De Niro, Sharon Stone, Joe Pesci, Don Rickles. This is our movie this week. For the record, I did not add this to the list, even though it's one of my top 4 movies of all time on Letterboxd. Proto, please.
Casino is gold on your wrist and dirt in your mouth. Gambling savant Sam Rothstein is put in charge of the mob-funded Tangiers Casino. He is protected by longtime friend and made man Nicky Santoro. They carve their stake in the Las Vegas Strip, keeping the crooks in line and skimming off the top for the bosses back east. They are on top of the world when a wild card enters Sam's life in the form of Ginger McKenna, a high-caliber hustler who is a force of nature, giving love and taking everything. A gambler, mobster, and hustler live as kings and queens of Vegas, but it will cost them their lives, and for some, much more.
Good Lord.
Proto's our king of Vegas right now. Oh, mercy. Casino. 3 hours long. It's an investment. Everyone just get that out of the way now if you haven't seen it yet. If you have, you know what you're getting into. Ace Rothstein. Robert De Niro in those clothes he wore in this movie. Are you kidding me? His high socks? It looks like he was wearing silk socks for most of this movie.
When he walked out in the very beginning in that pink blazer, pink tie, white slacks, that we were in for a treat.
That monochromatic look. Like I didn't know you could do that, where you have a tie, a shirt, and a suit all the same color. It looked amazing. He did it so many times, but it worked.
Yeah.
He looks so good in this.
He's easily, we're just talking about the character, Sam Rothstein. He's easily one of the most fashionable men I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh my God.
Like, who was picking his clothes? He just has a knack for discovering fashion and nailing it every time. Even his bathrobes. There's like pajama robes at home. unreal.
Yeah, he only had two
Anything-
things. He wore suits or he wore those silk bathrobes. And those are the only things you're ever going to see him in.
Even when he got woken out of bed to come to the casino to get Nikki out of there, and he put on even a really nice like nighttime blazer, whatever that was. He had kind of like an emergency blazer that he put on to get to the casino, and he still looked great. Boy, I don't even know where to start. So I think everyone kind of knows my vibes. I've seen this movie. I think I saw this movie before Goodfellas, just at the stage, because everyone compares this to Goodfellas. Goodfellas came out right before this. Has almost like the same cast, the same main cast. But I'd seen this, I believe, before. And it honestly is like a mafia opera to me. It's so huge. It's so vast. And everyone is at the top of their game. Was this both of your first viewing? Danny, is this the first time you've seen it?
Yeah. This is definitely my first time seeing it. I had seen Goodfellas a few times. I do love Goodfellas a lot. I don't know why I never saw this, but knowing how you felt about it, I had to add this to the list to watch and review. This it's crazy. It's so big. I think De Niro is on top of his game in this movie. I think he's so perfect in this film. I can't get over his his poise in this movie. He's so slow to react to things, even when they're crazy. You can his facial expressions and just his mannerisms in this film blew my mind. Like just the way he carried himself as the boss, as the husband, as the father, it was like next level. De Niro was on top of his game, and I just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, this was my first viewing, and I have seen Goodfellas before, and I can see why they're compared a lot. So I said something earlier. I said I was going to do something that has maybe never been done, definitely never done on this podcast before, and probably never done on any movie podcast before. I'm going to give you my star rating right now.
I knew it.
There's a lot of things to get into, and I don't want to pretend. I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to string you along. I want to be upfront because I know what this movie means to Slim, and it's only fair.
Space.
It's only right that I come out here right now, right here, and be open and honest with everyone.
Yeah.
For me, this is a 3-star movie. Okay.
I appreciate your honesty with us.
I'm giving it 3 stars. But I think a reason for that can be is that seeing Goodfellas first does affect that, because in the same way that certain directors have a way of making a movie, like a Tarantino movie, they have like this certain vibe or this certain storytelling elements. And the first time you experience it, it's something to behold. But then I think when you see it again, it doesn't have as much of an impact, because in a lot of ways, this is very similar to The Irishman to me. Like, it feels like a very similar story. And in the way that I feel like Scorcese, with these mob movies, he makes movies that are more like docudramas than they are like a traditional drama story. Because to me, there's like a lot of things like missing in this type of movie. Like it's very engaging, and it's entertaining to see these characters and just watch these scenes and these things that happen. But there's a lot that like leaves me not invested in the movie or in the characters. Like there's not really much of an arc of any of these characters. None of them really grow or change. It's very much like I'm just like peering into their lives, seeing them just live out their lives the way they did from the beginning, and then it kind of like ending.
What you mentioned about the docu-series is so right on. This movie is so big. it's hard to, we joke about acts and stuff, but like it's hard to pinpoint certain parts. Like, so in my notes, I usually write things that are kind of go along with the movie to kind of keep our kind of discussion in track. But there's just so much that happens. Like there's exposition to start this movie that lasts about 12 minutes where they kind of set the stage for what's going on with the mafia in Las Vegas. And he and Ginger's relationship doesn't really kick off until 40 minutes in. And then you still have another, 2 hours, 20 minutes of movie to go at that point. So there's so much that happens. And you're right, there is a lot of similarities to Irishman, which I think in my Irishman review is why I had a negative vibe. Because when I watched Irishman, I kind of thought like, I've already seen this kind of movie, and it was Casino, and De Niro was way better. His character was more interesting to me, and it had visual snap. That's what I think what I said in my Irishman review. Like there was just nothing visually pleasing about the Irishman movie for me. So like when I constantly reference it to Casino, like I have this like cocaine-addled, visually exciting Casino film. Like I don't care about Irishman in that way. The movie starts out with a kind of like a speech from De Niro, as you would expect from one of his movies, his mafia movies, mob movies, whatever you want to call it. And he talks about how like, what love means to him and how you have to give yourself entirely to your partner, let them trust you, implicitly give the key to everything. And then he gets in the car and the car explodes. And then you have this like Saul Bass designed intro, which is very Mad Men-esque because he's like flying through the Las Vegas and the flames and stuff. And like right away, I'm like, oh, and there's this opera music sing like in the background. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, F yes. This is like my ultimate Scorcese movie. Give me all of this. And then it just quickly jumps into him explaining the mob's presence in Las Vegas. He's being put in control. So they're skimming money from the top and they're just going to make money. He's in charge of everything, essentially, just making sure that it works. And then Joe Pesci gets sent out there to make sure no one screws it up, even though they all screw it up. But there's a thread that kind of like covers the entire movie. And it's shortly after they get kicked into place where these Japanese businessmen come to the casino and take them for like $2 million or whatever. And they're cheapskates. They're like stealing towels as well. And he's just recounting the story about how they took the money and they're about to get on the plane, but they craft a scheme to get them back to the casino to get that money back. And they say like their plane breaks down. They can't get a flight until the next day. So they have to come back to the casino. And he has like a quote. He says, the cardinal rule
is to keep them playing and keep them coming back. The longer they play, the more they lose. In the end, we get it all.
That line is them in the movie. Like that happens to Joe Pesci. That happens to Robert De Niro. It happens to Ginger, Sharon Stone's character. Because at the end of the movie, he's even like saying like, in the end, I wound up right back where I started. And why mess up a good thing? And that's that. It's like that sentence was just the casino, the entire movie. They played the game for so long and everything was taken away from them because they played the game. There's just so much of this movie that I love. So much.
If we can go back to the opening scene, when he gets in the car and it blows up, that took me out of it so much because you can see right as it blows, you can see a dummy sitting in the car when it goes on fire. And I just like, Marty, how are you not shooting it from a different angle? Like, did no one see this? Did they just think is it like some kind of hint that, he didn't die in the car? It just seems so weird to me and like took me totally out of it in like that first scene. I was like, what is this? Is this like a B movie? Like, what is going on right now? That was
also,
so
why not
bizarre.
just shoot it again? Like, weren't they looking at the dailies? And Marty's like, it's close enough. It's hot out. Let's go home. Like, this isn't that important of a shot. Because even then, he's like not even really in the car when it explodes. When they show it again, from his other perspective, he like jumps out from the door, and it just looks like a totally different scene.
It's funny too because when that happened in the beginning of the movie, I felt like it almost messed up the movie for me and the storytelling because I felt like I knew that he died, and so I felt like every scene that could potentially harm him, I was like, well, this isn't where he dies. Right. Or this isn't where he like eats it. But then when it flips and he actually survives that, then I'm like, oh shit. Like it just then it changed how I felt about the movie. It was really funny. Mm-hmm. It was weird starting like that and then that actually not be what happens to him. Because then, like when he goes out into the desert, which is arguably my favorite scene in the movie with Pesci, and he's worried about the holes being buried out there and that argument they have, and they look stunning with the outfits they're in. And I'm like, well, he's not going to kill him because I know he blows up in the car. So it's like it took a little bit of weight off that that kind of tension between them.
Can we talk about the sunglasses? We talked about it in Slack. But the sunglasses that De Niro wears in this movie are absolutely next level.
Those Goliath sunglasses in the desert. I mean, we need them for
that shot where he sees the car going across his sunglasses. Are you serious right now?
Are sunglasses in our budget?
That's the best. That's the best scene of the movie. It's so good. Their whole look. I mean, those suits with those heeled shoes with like that perfect cut trousers, and then those glasses and their hair. To me, like part of me thinks like when I first see this, I'm like, everywhere you see them, they're in suits. I'm like, man, that would really suck to wear a suit everywhere. But as you watch it, you're like, man, they look really good. I could see myself. Am I gonna start wearing suits every day?
I wanted to show up at the podcast for one. I don't know.
Oh God. So the movie starts out showing you the glitz of Las Vegas and the Tangiers, this made up casino that he runs. Cinematically, this is, it's one of my favorite movies, but this is my favorite Scorcese movie. He is just flexing on me during this entire movie. The shots of the casino, the dolly shots that are rolling around Ace Rothstein in the casino, the lighting is insane in this movie. Like just the really overexposed kind of like white ring lights. I don't even know how he did it, but every shot of these two and Ginger, and I mean, I think in the knife scene is the first one where the lights really pop, where they're at the bar, and this is after Nicky is told you got to like look after Ace. He's making us a lot of money. And it's this infamous scene where Nicky just murders this guy with his own pen. It's hilarious and very dark, but the white lights in that scene, how they're popping off the bar counter, and the fog or like the smoke. God, there's just like, I don't even know how you can like do that so easily, but he does it all over this movie.
Yeah, the moments when De Niro takes a puff of his cigarette and that whiff of that little like trail of smoke going in front of his face every time. I'm like, God, how does he control the smoke in this? Because it's so perfect.
Yeah. There's really early on, you do find Ginger. Oh, and then that was another thing I wanted to comment on. Proto's like, there's a lot of things missing in this movie about how things story-wise are just like not in it. And I made a note of that as well because I try to compare my Irishman thoughts to this. This is the first time I watched this Irishman, and I was like perturbed about certain characters just kind of like appearing in and out of nowhere. But the parts that I liked in this movie where he meets Ginger for the first time in the casino because she's helping some Richie Rich win money, and she got pissed because he didn't give her enough of the cash that he won, and she flips his coins all over the casino, and Ace sees this, and he's just like really drawn to her as if she's doing this. She's just like really wild. She's a wild child, and they lock eyes, and he doesn't like smile. He just like sees her walk, and then like almost the next scene is them dating. Having been dating for a few months. Like there's so much skipped in terms of time, and like moments between characters are just glossed over. And I really enjoyed it in this movie. Like there's so many important moments, like them having a child, like that is just something that's glossed over in between scenes. Like the child is there, the daughter.
They do a good job with it because they do like these little montage narrations as well. Because I remember thinking that, but they start the movie showing how he falls in love with Ginger. But so they're going to hook up and get together. So they didn't need to kind of tell the courting process because that's going to happen. But also, even when the birth, their child, they talk about in the narration how he chose to have a baby first so that he can hold that over her and in their marriage, so that that's like her locked into their marriage as well. So she can't just leave him. I think they do a great job with that kind of narration style in this because it tells so much so fast, but it's so helpful that they don't need to show every bit of the way of it visually.
Yeah, Scorsese does an amazing job where he doesn't really waste a scene. Like every scene in his movies, it's just going to be entertaining. It's as if like he just makes the movies, it feels like, that are going to be entertaining to him. And in the same way, they always say, like, don't tell anyone something, show them. So he doesn't have to tell us that they, that they dated and they fell in love. And he doesn't have to tell us that, she was a pregnancy and there was a baby. He just shows us the things that are important about the relationship. The thing that's important about the characters. And man, those scenes are amazing. I would have loved, I could have seen like a whole movie just about Ginger. Sharon Stone in this,
radiant,
to me, is the best part of this movie. She steals every scene she's in, and just their relationship is so electric. The way they interact with each other, all those moments in the latter half of the movie where things are like falling apart are just so good. And there's such like a raw, palpable bitterness between them. When they're like, you believe it.
Take your fucking bag and get out of here.
I'm going. I want my money right now.
Don't get your money. Don't worry.
The arrangement is over.
No kidding. No kidding!
And I still get my money. I need some cash right now. You can't just put me in the street.
You haven't been straight with me ever since I met you. You never even loved me in the first place. I need eyes in the back of my fucking head. You're fucking bitch.
How can I love you? How can I love you? Treat me like I'm your fucking dog.
You're lower than a dog.
Fuck you.
Here. Is this enough money? Huh? Will last you 2 fucking days? Take it, greedy bitch. Take the fucking money.
Go to the bank and I'm getting my jewelry too.
Good, it opens at 9 a.m. Be there.
And don't you send your guys down there to stop me.
I guarantee you, I will not stop you.
No, you're not getting rid of me with one
Come back
fucking
tomorrow.
suitcase.
Get the rest. Just get out of here.
Fine. I'm taking Amy.
You're not taking Amy.
I am. I'm waking her up right now.
You're stoned. You're a junkie. Get out
I
of here.
am not. She's my daughter. Don't goddamn
My lawyer's a letter, God.
And you think this is real. Like, you really do get sucked in. That like those scenes are so immersive. But if we can just jump back, one thing that drove me crazy, and I've said this before, is that I really don't like narration that much in movies. Mm-hmm. And of course, this has a ton of narration.
Half the movie's narration.
And can you tell me why Joe Pesci is reading everything like he's in 4th grade? And the bosses,
they couldn't be happy.
I got $700.
told me to. It's like what is? There's like it sounds so weird. Everything he said to me, it came off as so weird, and it just like every time he was talking, I just didn't believe it at all because it felt like he lost his like moxie that his character had whenever he was narrating.
He's street smart. That's maybe he does have a 4th grade education, to be honest. Back to the Ginger scene. When he proposes to her, and she even flat out says, like, I'm the wrong girl for this. Oh, yeah. I'm not in love with you. And he's like, well, we have the foundation of mutual respect is enough for us to get married on. Like that could come later. Like he still just wanted that kind of domestic life that he didn't even care that she wasn't in love with him. I thought that was such a crazy insight into De Niro's character in this movie.
That was a perfect segue because the fact that you're saying how, and Danny, you mentioned it earlier, how level-headed De Niro is throughout this whole movie. I was so sure on 3 different occasions that they were going to whack Lester.
Oh my God.
How did this guy not get killed? That is like the biggest surprise of this whole movie.
He is the dirtiest individual
So
I can
gross.
think of in a movie. James Woods as this old pimp. I just want to slap him around. I don't even know him. I want to put him in a shower. I want to wash his hair. He is so filthy. He's disgusting. And I love James Woods in this movie.
How about when he finally gets money at the end and he just kind of dresses up his grossness? I just couldn't even look at him. It was so hard.
I read an interview, I think with James Woods a long time ago. It said, probably it's on the wiki now. I think he said once he found out that he was looking for this character, James Woods said, like, I'll do it for any fee. I'll do it anytime, anywhere for Scorcese just to be in this movie. God, he was so good. Even though he's literally became Lesser Diamond in the year 2020 in real life, but it's a topic for another podcast. And also, Ace is aware of Lester. Talk about his level-headedness. He's aware of him even before he proposes to her. And at various points, he knows she goes back to him. And he's still so clear-headed about it. and is aware of the situation that he's in. Like, I guess you could say he's playing the odds like he does with the casino and how he was a bookie and stuff. But it's just crazy. And then later, when he finds out that she is so coked out and just drug addicted and crazy, she just totally has a breakdown and then goes to Nikki, Joe Pesci's character. He is aware of that as well. And he still kind of almost doesn't lose it. He is aware of the predicament they are now in because she is potentially having an affair with Nikki. Like, he knows what that means for their lives. Like, they could be killed if this stuff gets out to the bosses. And now he kind of like advises her of how to, you know, you got to play it cool now. You effed us so hard by going to Nikki that you just have to make sure we don't all get killed because of this. I thought it was pretty interesting too.
Yeah. Another thing that's so interesting about the De Niro character is that this is a mob movie, but it's really centered around a character who isn't a mobster. He's really like, he just wants to run this casino straight. He's really good at it. And he's passionate about it. That's one of the scenes I loved is, I can't remember who's having dinner with, but they have the blueberry muffins come out.
Yeah.
And then he looks in his blueberry muffin, and then he looks at the guy who's eating with him, and he's like, how many blueberries do you have? And they're counting blueberries. And then he sees that his muffin is like has way too many. So he takes them both back into the kitchen and talks to the chef and is like, I want equal amount of blueberries in every muffin. And the chef's like, do you know how long that's going to take? And he's like, I don't care. I just love that scene because it's like an insight into this character. Like, he is so much about doing this. Like, the mob got him the line of work, but it was really like, he didn't really care. Like, he was passionate about like making bets. And then there was like, all right, well, we'll put you in charge of a casino. And he's like, oh, I'd love to do that. And he just does it. And it's almost like the mob is like orbiting his life, but he never gets fully sucked in. He's just kind of doing his own thing. And the mob allows him to do it because he's just so good at it. Another insight into his thinking, when they went to some other dinner and this young kid comes up to Ginger and then compliments De Niro and says how lucky he is. And he gives this kid a look as he walks away.
He was a young kid from the casino. Nice kid. Bright boy. What balls on this fucking kid? The next day I fired him.
Oh, I love that scene. There's a look he gives at when he gets the phone call that Ginger's at the restaurant where Nikki's at, and he's like, she's with you? And he gives that De Niro, like, his eyes, like, you know, shit is about to go down. Like, you see that in his face, and I love that look. He's wearing that red suit, and he's just pissed.
Yeah.
But he's not, like, letting off any anger. He just has that De Niro squint, and he on the phone, and I just was like, hell yes, here we go.
She went to that dinner after she tied up their daughter to her bed so that like she wouldn't leave the bed because she was home alone. My God.
It was so crazy.
That's what I don't get about, like, Ace is like such a smart guy. Like, why? So this is one thing about it that I don't get is like, why wouldn't he just give Ginger like a separate home, give her like $20,000 a month, and like just live separate lives? Like, why did they have to be in the same house? It seems like there would have been like so many other solutions to this, but he took like the hardest route possible. And at one point he mentions like you're gonna like disgrace me by like getting a divorce or something like that. And I was like, whoa, I thought that was like, he said that early on that, you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I was kind of confused by that a little bit.
Yeah. There's a scene, I think, at the end where he kicks her out and he's like, you want the key? Here's the key. Take all the money. I don't care. And he packs up her stuff and he has that like amazing exchange with the cops. Remember the cops that come to the house and he's like making small talk with the cops. Oh my God. That was one of my favorite scenes. But after that, there's another monologue scene where he says he doesn't want her to go because that means he'd lose control over her. And he doesn't want her to leave out of his life, which is the only other insight into his thinking there, because you're right. Like, fine, just get the F out of here. This chick is crazy. She's going to die at some point and get them all killed. So as this is progressing, their lives are kind of like falling apart. Nikki, who is there to watch over De Niro, Sam Rothstein, is banned from all casinos, essentially, because he's trouble. So he then decides there's another amazing musical montage where he decides to get his buddies and just start robbing like all these places in Las Vegas so that he can make some money. And it causes heat on Ace. It causes heat on the family that's like running the casino. And at the same time, Ginger then is just going crazy and starts hooking up with Nikki. Nikki Santoro, Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci gets not one, but two fellatio scenes in this movie. And you want to talk about a horror movie. Like seeing Nikki, Joe Pesci in this movie kiss a woman is really unsettling stuff, in my opinion. Like he kisses Ginger in that second scene in the trailer. Like I don't think he's ever kissed a woman in his entire life the way he was kissing her.
Oh, the way he's like nuzzling her to start. Oh yeah, that scene is so brutal. He's just the biggest slime ball. That character, man. It is brutal. That montage of them like making a name for themselves and starting the jewelry business. That's a cool scene. I love how it ends too, because I feel like that's the one glimpse of humanity in this character, is that it ends where Ace is giving the narration and he says, but no matter what he was doing, he's always back home at 6:30 to make his son breakfast. And then he has like that little scene where he makes some pancakes, and like it was like a really touching moment. It was like, oh, this guy is a human. But other than that, he is just like the nastiest guy in like any mob movie I can remember.
His hair in this movie is wild. His face in this movie is wild. Like some of the mannerisms his face looks. At some points I was like wondering if Joe Pesci had some work done before this movie. I don't know, the makeup he was wearing. In general, it was probably just the unsettledness of the scenes with women.
No, there is one close up. There is one close up of his face where it's like a pan over towards his face, and his whole face takes up the shot. I think it's when he first opens the jewelry shop, and he's like standing on the porch there. And as his face comes in the view, I was like, which character is this? But it was.
And then while this is going on, Sam eventually does lose his license. And he kind of realizes he's going to lose the casino. And that's where he first really shows his like true emotions. He freaks out on the senator that he's comped, that decide they're not going to give him a hearing about his license. He freaks out in front of the cameras, and which is a great scene. And eventually he starts a talk show at the casino, which the bosses are not happy with because he's just shining a light on the casino. And he like doesn't care. Like they come and tell him to stop, essentially, to stop being so public about what you're doing. And he says flat out no. He thinks he's been wronged. He wants to screw over the people that screwed him at the casino. And at that point you're wondering, okay, does that mean De Niro's going to get killed by the mob? Like, did the mob put out the hit on the exploding car? Is Nikki going to do it? Like, is Nikki going to get killed? Like, they're so screwed by towards the end of this movie that you're not sure what's going to happen. You know, I read that they all, like 99% of their scenes were improvised, and that Scorsese just gave them a beginning and an end.
Wow.
And
holy shit.
Can you imagine, are you serious? That's crazy.
Yeah, they really do let them loose in some scenes. And some of it, there's some scenes where it's almost feels like a stage scene where the whole background is just blurred out, and you don't see any of like the foreground or any of the floor, and it's really just them from like the waist up. And it's just like these two characters, usually Nikki and Ace, just having a conversation. And it's just like a moment of like this incredible acting between two characters that is so great. And there's a lot of moments like that, and that is wild that there's like improv in this. That's amazing.
What the fuck are you doing on TV anyhow? You know, I get calls from back home every fucking day. They think you went batshit.
I'm only on TV because I got to be able to hang around a casino. You understand that?
You
know that.
fucking
Come on.
ass. You could have had the food and beverage job without going on television. You wanted to go on TV.
Yeah, I did want to go on TV. That way I have a forum. I can fight back. I'm known. People see me. They know they can't fuck around with me like they could if I was an unknown. That's right.
You're making a big fucking spectacle of yourself.
Me? I wouldn't even be in this situation if it wasn't for you. You brought down so much fucking heat on me. I mean, every time I meet somebody, the big question
question is, do I know you?
Oh, sure.
And
Now
what do
you
I
want to
do?
blame your fucking license on me.
No,
Is that it?
Nikki, when you asked me if you could come out here, what did I tell you? I mean, you asked me, and I knew you were going to come out no matter what I said, but what did I tell you? Do you remember what I told you?
Back
do you
up,
remember
back
what
up
I
a
told
fucking
you?
minute here. 1 minute. I asked you, when the fuck did I ever ask you if I could come out here? Get this through your head, you. Get this through your head, you Jew motherfucker, you. You only exist out here because of me. That's the only reason. Without me, you, personally, every fucking wise guy still around, will take a piece of your fucking Jew ass. Then where you gonna go? Your fucking warrant don't ever go over my fucking head again, you motherfucker, you.
I also loved I'm trying to go through my notes to see if I missed anything, but the way, so there's a few scenes where Nicky goes and kills people. I think there's a montage where he's just like offing people responsible for potentially shutting down the casino. And he kills this one woman who that is like trying to get the rights back, do some kind of deal that happened years ago. He grabs her at the breakfast table and he shoots her in the side of the head. But what I love about this scene and all other scenes with guns, he's shooting if that's a real gun, he's shooting his arm on the other side of her head. Like the gunshots in this movie are so fake. It's hilarious. God. It's just as if there's he's not even pulling the trigger. They just add the noise of like pop, 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 pop. Every time someone gets killed, there's no like blood really. There's no holes in their shirts. It's just so fake and hilarious. I love it. There's no blood.
I love after he shoots her in the head, he like tilts it a little bit so that blood can pour out of her mouth.
Yeah, don't worry about the blood potentially coming out of the other side of her scalp because that is non-existent and also on your arm.
Right.
I love Don Rickles in this movie too. Don Rickles plays the most non-Don Rickles character, like just a straight man, pretty much.
Yeah, that was
such
surprise.
a weird role for him.
I love him in this. The scene when Pesci takes the phone off and he hits him in the head and Rickles falls. I laughed.
Just playing
so
dead.
He rolls
when
over
he rolls
in his
over.
face.
That was another one I would have been like, let's get a different angle of you rolling over because this looks weird.
God.
Oh, and then towards the end, Nicky is eventually killed by the bosses, and he's doing a voiceover as this is happening. And what cracked me up is Nicky gets like punched in the stomach as he's delivering the voiceover, and then his voiceover like cuts off, like as if he was stopped speaking, which was hilarious. But I think maybe even Mikey P, I know he wrote a review for this movie. I think he was turned off by the violence in the scene where Nicky and his brother were murdered in the desert because it is pretty graphic.
Speaking of that, I actually did a little deep dive on this. I don't know if you guys noticed or if you looked up the fact that this was based on a true story. And I know it was a book written about a true story and that was brought to Scorcese, but there's like that scene is factual. That character is a real character that Nicky's based off of, and him and his brother were murdered in a cornfield in Indiana and buried there. Like that's a fact that happened in that real story.
What's going on in Las Vegas in the 70s where all of these murders were happening and I guess no one was the wiser until it was too late. Like, honestly, so much murder. It's crazy that this is based on a true story.
I watched Scorsese speak about it, and he was talking about how the end of this true story about, I think it was Frank, I think I wrote it down, Frank Lefty Rosenthal was the actual guy that Ace is based off of. And he's like the end of an era for Vegas. Like after this, they even say it at the end of the movie, it turns into Disneyland, it's taken over by junk bonds and all that kind of stuff. But there's so many, like Ace is a real person in real life, and then Ginger is based on a real character, a real person, Jerry McGee. He actually really didn't get the gambling license. He did survive a car bombing. They really did hunt down the former executive and kill him in Costa Rica. It's like, it's wild. And the real life Nicky actually had the affair with Ginger's character in real life. Like, and she really did die of a drug overdose. Like there's this, I couldn't believe that this movie was loosely based on a true story.
Something that always bothered me about mob movie, at least the Scorsese ones, there's always a montage scene at the end like this where it shows like what happened to all these characters. But so often I don't know who these characters really are, like what their role was in, because they're mentioned maybe early on and it's like it's during the narration. It's like, Americana's brother, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, who is this guy? Like, they're already talking in code, right? The mob, like they never talk straight. And then the narrator doesn't give you enough information. I always just feel kind of lost as to what's going on. And at the end, it's like, okay, this person's murdered. And maybe it doesn't matter that much. But I guess to me, it's if you're going to show it, I should know what it means more.
Yeah, I got taken out of it when they kept cutting back to the main Italians in, I guess, is it not? It's not Kansas City. That's where they meet.
I think it's Chicago, but they never call it Chicago.
Okay, yeah, I get taken back because they all seem like the same character. They're all large Italians who have that mob speak, and I could never keep up with who was who.
Yeah, Remo was the main guy.
He had a name.
Yeah, Remo. I think a lot of this, honestly, I know this only because I've seen it so many times. Like, I know of at the end where that one guy gets killed in Costa Rica. Honestly, I was like, wait, who is this? And then I was like, oh, that's the guy that was skimming and putting the money in the bag, literally, to take it back to the bosses. Yeah, there was a few points like that where I probably would have been lost. I mean, there's so much information dump in the narration scenes at the onset. And if you maybe look away from your TV for 2 minutes, you miss all of this stuff, where he doesn't even want to keep record, or he keeps records, and that's so integral to the story, but it's shown only really, really fast. Also, how about the scene where he's arguing with his mother in the
oh yeah, it's so good
that store? I think that might have been Scorsese's mother. In that scene, she was amazing in that scene when he's cursing and she's reacting to him cursing. Oh my god,
Ma, sorry, Ma.
Anything else in your notes, Danny, that we didn't have time for?
Nothing groundbreaking. I love this movie.
Let's hear it. Let it out.
There's some amazing scenes. De Niro is next level. Pesci they're on the top of their game. Sharon Stone, she is killer in this movie. I know she won Golden Globe for Best Actress in this. Outside of the three of them, I feel like it's a lot of bad acting. It's a lot of interesting script writing for some of these actors. But for me, this is a 4-star movie. I loved it. I like it. I think I like it better than Goodfellas. I like the grandness of Vegas. But I don't like to compare them either because I feel like they're two different movies. Like, you have a real condensed Goodfellas it feels more like a claustrophobic mob movie. Like, it's always in your face, and Ray Liotta's amazing in that movie. But Vegas is grand and huge, and this is a big movie. And I don't think it's fair to compare the two, but I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed this a lot more. This was a lot more fun for me to watch this movie. I actually watched it twice this week to make sure that my rating was correct on it. But De Niro steals it. De Niro steals the show in this movie. I love every second he's on screen. I love his take on this character. I could easily watch this movie again and enjoy it time after time.
Yeah, and I think when we talked about it last week, this isn't a movie that I think most people love. Like, it had to have been so difficult for this movie to come out a year after Goodfellas and have people look at it from that lens at the time. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it received generally good reviews, but man, what a weird time frame for him to do Goodfellas and then this right after. They're just very close. Yeah, I don't know what it is overall. I can't pinpoint it about what stuck with me over time as to why this is one of my favorite movies. I think I just saw it at a time where I hadn't seen a big budget movie like this with these stars at that time yet, and with this much directorial flair and cinematography and everything included. I mean, the art direction, everything, which just really spoke to me when I first saw this movie, and it's always stayed with me. But yeah, this is a 5-star movie for me.
So yeah, I gave my star rating already, but one other thing I wanted to mention was one angle that I always find fascinating is whenever they talk about race in the mob movies. And there was a good bit of this because Rothstein is Jewish, and then Nicky, of course, is Italian, and then there's some like Irish characters as well. And there's one scene where it's like right after Nicky and Ace start feuding after the desert, and they're at a restaurant, and Nicky's sitting down, and then Sam comes in and he looks over, but he doesn't go over to him. and Nicky's like talking to his friends, and he's like, yeah, look, he doesn't even come over and say, and there's a certain way of doing things, like if you see somebody, you at least, like recognize them in some way. And then he's like saying, oh, like those Jews that, they're all this way. And then he like rattles off a couple things that he says like Jews do, but like everything he says is the same exact things that he does as well with like the Italians. I just thought that was like really interesting. And just like that whole, that whole world and how antagonistic they were towards each other just because of being a different race, and just like how much our culture has changed from them, at least on the surface, has always interested me. I haven't seen a ton of mob movies, but I think a mob movie that would focus more about that, like that aspect I guess The Irishman does a good bit of that as well. But yeah, I think this movie, if there was more between the characters and that there was more development in terms of like who they were. Of course, if it's based on a true story, it's kind of hard to do that unless you want to really, get away from the facts, perhaps. Maybe that's why they don't have more like development in that way, but great performances and yeah, some amazing cinematography. And just the look of this movie was great.
How about when that guy gets his eyeball popped out in that place?
Oh, Christ.
Shoo.
They'd been like beating him for 2 days or something. They couldn't get it out of him.
I saw this movie.
And then the name he gives is
Charlie
like,
M.
You're going to die for this guy. Like he was just pissed that it was some low life.
Charlie M, you dumb mother.
I watched this movie 2 days ago, and you guys have mentioned like 5 scenes I've already forgot about because this movie is so long.
I have in my queue, I'm going to fire up next week at some point, is the Once Upon a Time in America. I think that's what it's called. And I think it's another 3-banger, 4-hour, like 4-hour
double
movie.
VHS. Inside the curtain, that was potentially a 70mm episode at one point. Remember?
Yeah, it was talked about. I'm gonna fire it up next week. I'm really into De Niro right now. I think I'm gonna do.
I've never seen that movie.
Movies.
Never seen it.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it.
Are we doing a Zoom? Are we getting together, getting a Zoom video call?
Oh my.
All right, there you have it, Casino. I think some of our voicemails potentially dig in. If you want to leave us a voicemail, you can do so. If I have the number, 267-409-6983, or you can send us an audio file, which a few folks have done so far, to 70mmpod@gmail.com.
Hey guys, Mikey P. Calling to say hey. Also, I need a little help. I haven't submitted my iTunes review yet, and I want to. It's 5 stars, in case you were worried. I do 5.5, but I know Proto's not a fan of the half-star system. So anyway, I'm stuck on deciding on what movie I'd recommend for you guys to watch. It's tough to recommend a movie that's especially hyped up. I know you guys aren't a fan of that, and I know you're on a podcast that kind of hypes up movies. How do you guys go about recommending movies to people in your personal lives? Do you hype it up if it's a great movie, or do you just say you got to discover it for yourself? All right, I'll work on my review. Love you.
Love you too, Mikey. How do we recommend movies to each other in our circles?
Cool. That's a process.
I just try to be honest with people, I think. Like, if I really loved a movie, I just tell them that. Like, I'll talk at work. I talk to a good bit about movies. And if someone's like, they're talking about a movie, I just give it to them. I almost kind of say what I put in my Letterboxd review. Like, that's usually my go-to.
Seething.
Yeah, I'm usually seething. No, but I don't know. Like, I don't want to, the whole hyping up things. I like to believe that people can, like, be unbiased and, like, go into a movie and, think for themselves. So if I loved it, I'll tell them I loved it.
I know when I approach Matt on movies that I love, I have to tone it down 10 notches to get him to see this movie. If I come at him and I'm like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen, and I talk about it more than once, he's not going to see it.
There's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called, but in general, if I hear
Slimfluenced.
If I hear about something, a movie or otherwise, too much, and it's the hype effect is too strong, it pushes me away. It pushes me out of the hype circle, and it just becomes something I never want to watch or play or listen to ever.
It's like Proto and the Knives Out reviews.
Oh yeah, Proto's the only one in our crew probably that hasn't seen it yet, and everyone's 4 to 5 stars.
Another thing that Slim does is if he loves a movie and people are attacking it, he jumps on that train. Because you won't see him defending a movie he loves. I think for like a year, I thought you hated The Last Jedi because you would always just like ride the troll train of like mocking it, and I'm like, wow, somebody did. And then I went to your Letterboxd. I'm like, wait a second.
I don't know if that's true. We might have to check the tapes on that. That doesn't sound factually correct.
Got the tapes right here.
Oh man! Speaking of Ryan Johnson,
Last
Jedi,
God,
I was going to hit him up on Twitter and ask him about the shot in Casino when it's going over the tables. It felt like that Canto Bite shot in Last Jedi.
Oh God!
I'm gonna be like, Ryan, talk to me. Did you see Casino and get influenced by this?
Ryan, if you're listening right now, the offer's on the table. If you want to come on the show, talk about your favorite casino-related film. Let's do it. He's on Letterboxd. All right, here we go. Let's get into our audio files sent to 70mmpod@gmail.com.
Hey, boys. This is H calling in. First time, long time. Love the pod. Enjoy it every single week. You guys are just doing incredible work. Tonight, though, this movie is something special. Ever since, I first saw a couple of weeks ago that you guys were going to be doing this movie tonight, I knew I had to call in. Proto and I, as you know, have been taking this long journey together the last month and just getting so hyped for this thing that, well, here we go.
Is he talking about Dune?
Movie, man, set in a desert world where a battle rages for the most precious commodity in the universe. Our hero has been ripped from his safe world back home where his ability to seemingly predict the future has been noticed by the power brokers. Sent into the desert to make his fortune, he faces betrayal, aggression, and a battle with the establishment. With armies closing in on all sides, he must trust in himself, allow his fears to flow through him if he hopes to emerge triumphant on the other side. Casino, 4 stars. Keep up the good work, boys.
I think he's trolling us right now.
Is he spoiling Dune for us right now?
Okay, he got us. He got us.
Sounds good.
H the God.
God. That was good.
Boy, H is also working on his own little podcast Twitch empire over there. We'll see if he writes in. Maybe he's going to call in for the actual Dune episode too. Dune Boys. One more voicemail here. I think it's from Danny's favorite.
Hey, 70mm podcast. This is Andy again from Orlando. Super excited to catch this week's episode, but I wanted to thank you for the year premium subscription to Letterboxd. Super exciting, and so I appreciate that. And I hope that you guys pick my movie to review as a podcast. Hopefully you guys give 500 Days of Summer a chance, and I think it would be a fantastic episode. So anyways, hopefully you guys are taking care of yourselves and your family during this crazy time, and just keep on doing the podcast and entertaining us through this format. Appreciate you guys a whole lot. And Danny, again, I apologize for my Star Wars comments, man, but I would love to talk to you more about it. Hopefully at a Festival of Arts weekend here at Epcot. All right, take care, guys. Bye.
The olive branch from Andy.
Love it. 500 Days. It's a good movie.
Never seen it.
JGL, Zoe Deschanel. What's not to like about it?
What's not to like?
Next week, I have it pulled up on Letterboxd right now. 1984, David Lynch. A world beyond your experience, beyond your imagination. In the year 10,191, that is when this is set. Holy cow.
Write it down.
The world is at war for control of the desert planet Din, the only place where time travel substance spice can be found. So Dune and Star Wars both contain valuable items by the name of spice.
That's right.
What are the chances of that? million to one.
Hot commodity.
But when one leader gives up control, it's only so he can stage a coup with some unsavory characters. Listen to this cast: Kyle MacLachlan, Patrick Stewart. That's it.
Look at that cast.
Sean Young is in this. Max
Morty
von
Knight.
Sydow.
Oh, Max. That's right. Max is in it. Rest in peace.
Isn't Sting in this too? Is that real?
Yeah.
Sting, 137 minutes. I just bought that for $2 on Vudu. Sync into my Movies Anywhere. I'm probably going to watch it in the YouTube app because my movie purchases sync to YouTube.
I'm excited. I remember nothing of this movie. I'm pretty sure I saw it at some point. But having just reread the series, it's going to be good to be back in the world.
Oh.
Are you going to be eating chocolate before your viewing? I know you've been into that late at night lately.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm eating chocolate all day, every day.
Have you never eaten chocolate before this pandemic? What is going on over there?
Yeah, well, see, I've had chocolate, but there's like when you have enough, you ascend to a new height of experience because people say, sugar highs. This isn't a sugar high. This is a choco high. This is something else. All right. I'm getting high on chocolate, and it's what I need right now. Everyone needs to do what they need to do to survive these times. So that's just what me and my family are doing.
Hopefully this podcast is providing a audio chocolate high for people that don't eat chocolate. Thanks everyone for writing the iTunes, Apple Podcast reviews so far. Can't wait to randomly select a winner. I hope it's not Endgame for Danny's sake, because Danny has said he will quit the show if Endgame wins, and he's leaving forever. Podcasting.
Start my own podcast.
I could probably play Danny.
Thanks everyone for calling in, writing emails. We really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for sharing the show and trying to enter to win a year of Letterboxd Pro like Andy did last week. Danny's arch nemesis in Orlando. We'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye.
'70mm is produced by Dale_A and sponsored by Half Double Design. Original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance provided by Proto. This episode was mixed and edited by me, Slim. Special thanks to the good people at Letterboxd, and for a chance to win a Pro Letterboxd account, share the show and tag us on social media at 70mm Pod. Goodbye.